Justin Herbert, he had a phenomenal rookie season. You look; these are the records that Justin Herbert broke as a rookie quarterback. Total touchdowns, he had 36. Passing touchdowns, he had 31. Completions, he had 396. 300-yard passing games, he had 8. Multiple touchdown passing games, he had 10. 3 touchdown passing games, he had 6. And he was only 39 yards short of the passing record for a quarterback. And I think what's phenomenal about his season is that he had a high workload. He was passing a bunch of times a game, and he was still very efficient, highly efficient. And the only other quarterbacks as rookies that were really efficient were Dak Prescott, Big Ben, RG3, and Russell Wilson. And all of them had a phenomenal running game. Dak had Zeke. RG3 had Alfred Morris, who was a rookie that year too. And Russell Wilson had Marshawn Lynch. I believe it was Marshawn Lynch. So it's like Justin Herbert didn't have a great running game, was asked to throw a lot, and he delivered. And this topic is going to be about what do you think is the best way for the Chargers to build around Justin Herbert, and talking about who they should hire as a coach, what should they do in free agency, and etc. I'll start with you, Jack.
I think that first and foremost, well, the best thing that they could have done this offseason already happened, and that was firing Anthony Lynn. When you look at what happened this season, they lost 7 one-possession games. 3 of those games were losses of 3 points or less. So even with as bad as a job as Coach Anthony Lynn did and as bad as that defense was, they were still right in almost every game this season. They were in shootouts with some really great teams, starting with the Chiefs in like his second start, I believe it was. It was his first or second start, and he played incredible all season long. So I think first and foremost, they had to fire Anthony Lynn, which they took care of. And I said it before with Deshaun Watson, I'll say it with Justin Herbert. I think it's most important to hire a defensive-minded head coach. You said this a couple of weeks ago, and you hit the nail right on the head. I think that the offense is in good shape right now. They have great weapons. They have Justin Herbert, who seems to be a top talent in the league at the quarterback position over the next couple of years. I don't think their line is terrible. I don't think they were that good this year, but I think they have potential. They were dealing with some injuries, so if they get back healthy, I don't think that line is in bad shape. I think Pep Hamilton at the quarterback coach with Justin Herbert is a great combination there. So on the offensive side of the ball, I don't think that needs the focus, just like I was saying with Deshaun Watson and the Texans offense. The defensive side of the ball has a lot of talent. So it's pretty incredible how bad of a unit they were. I know they were dealing with some health problems, so hopefully, first and foremost, they get back healthy. But second of all, if you bring in a good defensive mind, a guy like you mentioned it a couple of weeks ago when we did a segment on him, Robert Saleh would be a great guy for this unit. When we were talking about him with the 49ers, they have a lot of talent in San Francisco, but they also have a lot of talent on this Chargers defense. So he can come in, execute a pretty similar game plan, and if you could even get that defense to an okay level, with the level that Justin Herbert performed at, and you're bringing back a lot of those guys this year, I think if you bring back at least a similar core, they should be in fine shape, but it comes down to the head coaching decision. If they could hit on that, I don't see any reason why they're not contending, in a season or two at most.
It's my turn.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I was doing, like I said, 2021. I'm on a new vision, so I was doing some research today. And like you said, one of the main things they did was fire Anthony Lynn. I think with all the mistakes that they made last year in terms of horrible special teams, blowing leads, I think this team definitely needed a new direction. Now, the name that keeps popping up is Eric Bieniemy. Is that how you say his last name?
The enemy.
Yeah, the enemy. I think that's the guy who keeps popping up. They need an offensive coordinator. They need somebody who's going to unlock that inner demon in Justin Herbert. He already saw in his rookie season that he can be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. That team, like you said, is talented. They dealt with a lot of injuries on the defensive side last year. So you get a guy like Eric
Bieniemy.
You get a guy like Eric Bieniemy in there on that offense, this team could definitely make some noise. You get some help on that special teams to stop making mistakes, because that was one of their biggest problems last year was special teams. And then that defense, Derwin James comes back, and people forget he's one of the best safeties in this league. So you get him back. Chris Harris Jr., you get him back. He had an injury-riddled season. Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa. You got to, they have talent on that defensive side. They just have to play together and stay healthy. So I think if everything plays in the shape, everybody gets healthy, I think the Chargers can be definitely a team that can pop out and make the AFC playoffs.
Jack, I know that I said that I would go with a defensive coordinator, but I'm going to change my take. And this is why. And Rib, just to let you know, you got to talk closer to the mic.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. This is what I'm going to say. I know that Justin Herbert had a great rookie season, but the confidence that I have for him to continue that without having a really good offensive coordinator year in year out is not as high as a guy like Deshaun Watson, who's already a pro. I'm more comfortable with the Texans going out for a DC because Deshaun Watson is already developed. He's proven. Herbert still needs to be paired up with a great offensive mind to unlock his potential. And for me, I think going with a defensive coordinator is a risk because you can hire an offensive coordinator, but we've seen in the past that those OCs stay for a season, maybe 2, maybe 3, then they're gone, then you're working with somebody new. When you look at the top quarterbacks in the NFL right now, Patrick Mahomes, he's paired up with a brilliant offensive mind in Andy Reid. Drew Brees, he's paired up with Sean Payton. Lamar Jackson, he's paired up with Greg Roman, even though that's an OC. But Roman's been there for a couple seasons, and he's getting head coaching opportunities right now. Then you look at also Aaron Rodgers. They brought in Matt LaFleur, an offensive coordinator. He had his most efficient season in his career. So I think the Chargers need to bring in an offensive coordinator as their head coach. Names that come to mind, Bieniemy, I like Bieniemy. I like Arthur Smith. I like Brian Dable. I really love Joe Brady. I think Joe Brady is a brilliant offensive mind. I'm cautious about him because he's only 31 or 32 years old. So for him to be a head coach is it's kind of.
I just show him the dude from the Rams. Is he a young coach?
Yeah, but I think Sean McVay has a distinct personality to him that he can get away with that.
He's special.
I'm not sure about Joe Brady's personality. Arthur Smith, I think he's a brilliant offensive mind, but in terms of leading players, I don't know how he is in that. I think Bieniemy has that characteristic to him from what I've seen in interviews and I've heard. And he's a brilliant offensive mind. You talked about Robert Saleh. I love Robert Saleh's energy, and I love his defensive mind. But in my opinion, is Robert Saleh just another Anthony Lynn? Because you look at Robert Saleh and Anthony Lynn. Anthony Lynn, nobody's saying he's not a great person. Nobody's saying he's not a great motivator. What's his problem? Time management, clock management. If Robert Saleh, who's coming into a Chargers team who doesn't have the same talent that the 49ers have on their defensive side, is he going to come in and just be a motivator, a player's coach that the players love, but he messes up in clock management? That's my concern with him. In my opinion, it's so hard to find a head coach because you need a head coach that can either lead men and have great coordinators like what the Giants are doing with Joe Judge right now and John Harbaugh with the Ravens, or a guy who's just specializes on one side of the ball and just takes advantage of that. I'd go with an offensive coordinator. I think Eric Bieniemy should be the pick, and it'd be fun to watch. Now you're in the same division, and the Chargers finished 7-9. They finished second in the AFC West, even though the Raiders completely flopped that place. They completely flopped to end the season. I think going with the offensive coordinator is the right move. They have the weapons on offense. You're going to get Try Turner back. Pouncey is going to be healthy. Brian Bulaga. So they'll have better protection. I think they should go with Eric Bieniemy.
The reason I think defense going a defensive-minded coach, I don't even think it has to be a defensive coordinator per se, but I feel like they need more focus on that defense because although they do have a lot of talent, there has been no consistency on that defense for the last few years. So if you could even get that defense to an average level, they would have been a playoff team this year. They were in so many close games, and you mentioned it. My biggest concern comes to time management and and things like that. So I don't, you could get into offensive-minded, defensive-minded, good leader, not good leader, whatever it may be. They just need to get a good coach, a head coaching mind in there. And Anthony Lynn, although like you said, he was a great guy, a player's coach, the guys loved him. He just wasn't a great head coaching mind. He messed way too many things up. And they need to get a great head coaching mind in there. And if they can do that, no matter what he specializes in, I think they'll be in great shape because of the talent on the roster. if they ran it back with the same team with a different head coach, I think they would have been a playoff team this year.
And in my opinion, I agree with you. I had them making the playoffs this year, actually, and I had them making it with Tyrod Taylor starting. Yeah, because I thought they were going to be healthy because Derwin James was out. So was most of their offensive line and Austin Eckler for a couple of weeks. So, for me, the Chargers have the talent. And when you look at all the teams that have head coaching vacancies, the Falcons, the Lions, the Texans, the Jets, the Jaguars, the Chargers are probably the most lucrative because they have cap space, they have draft capital, they have that franchise quarterback. The Jets, it's still a mystery. You have to develop a QB. The Jaguars, you have to develop a QB. The Texans have Watson, but they don't have any cap space and nothing to work with outside of Watson.
The Chargers have the full picture.
Yeah, Falcons don't have any cap space. The Lions is kind of a mess of an organization.
And while they have Stafford and Ryan, you're going to have to figure out the quarterback in both of those situations. Those two guys are not going to be around.
Like the Chargers have the quarterback, they have the talent, they have some money to play with. So I think that the Chargers can get any coach that they want. I think a lot of head coaches looking at that destination, and that's their number one option.
Yeah, no question. I would say the same exact thing. They will have their pick of the litter, and everybody else will pick from there. And you could say, I think you can make an argument for almost any position as location number 2, but I think the Chargers are the premier position right now just because you said it. It's the full picture. They have cap space to bring in talent. They have talent on both sides of the ball. They have a great or at least a great young talent at quarterback who, you could project to be a top 5 quarterback in the league over the next decade. And who else has that? Nobody else has that full package. You said it, the Jets and Jaguars, even though they both have the 1 and 2 pick, they're going to, potentially get a great quarterback prospect in there. You don't know what a prospect is going to be. They both have the cap space, they have the picks, but you have to figure out the quarterback. The Lions, the Falcons, you have to figure out the quarterback. Their money situation isn't great. And the Texans, although they have a generational talent at quarterback, their money, their picks are terrible. And their talent isn't great beyond Deshaun Watson. So all those other teams have big looming question marks. I feel like the Chargers right now could be a playoff team with what they have. So I think it's the premier destination for a head coach.